One question that I get asked when I'm talking to relatives or people on the street about what I do is, will artificial intelligence kill us all? Will machine learning destroy society? Will data science lead to a destruction of our privacy? And these are important questions, and while this course has talked a lot about the methods to try to create interesting technologies, I think it's important for us to take a step back and think about how this interacts with society. And just to kind of set the stage a little bit, I want to go over what are the problems, why are people so concerned? Some of these ideas are connected to each other, some are not. Before we get too deep into it, I want to go over some of the big ideas that we'll be talking about. This also lets us define some of the terms that you may have heard about and I'll be using as we talk about these issues today. So first, there's this concept of artificial general intelligence. And artificial intelligence is kind of a broadly defined term, but artificial general intelligence is roughly an intelligence that is broad and adaptable in similar ways that a human is broad and adaptable. So just as you can teach a human just about anything if you give them enough time, an artificial general intelligence is something that can learn to solve just about any problem. And obviously this is something that we don't have yet, but some people feel that we're approaching. And so the algorithms that we have today and that we've talked about in this course are very, very specific and perhaps can do interesting things on a single task, but come nowhere close to general intelligence. A connected issue is that if you have artificial intelligence that can do things like create artificial intelligence algorithms, we may approach something called the singularity. And the singularity has taken on almost religious implications in a number of subcommunities. And it basically means that if you have AI that can make AI, and AI is far more efficient than humans, you will very quickly have a superhuman intelligence that humans can no longer understand and perhaps no longer control. Why is it a problem if we don't have control over artificial intelligence algorithms? One issue is that our objectives may not be aligned. And in this course we've talked about objective functions in very abstract terms. There's some function that the algorithm is trying to optimize to solve its problem. And that objective function, if it impacts society, might not be something that we want, even if in a micro sense it is solving the problem that we wanted the AI to solve. And that could lead to problems as AI becomes more prevalent. And then at a broader level, perhaps AI could be used by someone who is pure evil, or itself could be evil. And maybe AI is not particularly malevolent, but it might lead to societal upheaval. And to give away the ending a little bit, this is, I think, the biggest problem that we have to worry about, less so the other issues. A lot of the ideas that I'm going to be talking about were inspired by a great essay by Rodney Brooks, which is the reading for this lecture, so please do read that before listening to me. And there are some places where we disagree and I'll emphasize different things, but I just want to give credit where credit is due, that a lot of these ideas were inspired by his essay. And if you don't read his essay, and again I encourage you very, very highly to do so, it's very accessible, unlike some of the other readings perhaps in this course, is this very keen insight that technology's impacts are often overestimated in the short term and underestimated in the long term. And I think that that is the case for artificial intelligence. That's been the case for every technological revolution that I've seen in my lifetime, and in a previous life I was a historian. That's also the case that I've seen historically. So while this is not a technical lecture, I do want to set forth a couple of axioms. And axiom one is that humans are jerks. And this is going to shape the way that our society interacts with artificial intelligence. Not because of what artificial intelligence is, but who the people who use artificial intelligence are. I probably don't need to prove to you that humans are jerks, But just to take one example, there was this friendly Canadian robot who was trying to hitchhike across North America, and of course, humans were jerks and destroyed it. And just as humans are jerks at a micro level, governments can be jerks at a macro level. And if AI is a tool, that is a tool that can be used by both humans individually and humans working together in corporations or governments. And you don't necessarily blame the tool for what the actors are doing. To be clear, I'm not trying to give artificial intelligence a pass. We should hold people responsible for the bad things that they do, but this key axiom that humans are jerks is going to shape our discussion today, and as a society, the development of artificial intelligence will be shaped by the bad or improper or unethical things that people do with technology or artificial intelligence. And that will happen a lot more quickly than scientific progress in artificial intelligence. Building on that axiom, I'm going to make some predictions. And I want to be very clear, these are predictions based on my own guesses of what the future will be. These do not represent my university or my funding agencies. This is entirely my own speculation about what may happen in the near and medium-term futures. Okay, so that disclaimer aside, my first prediction is that bad stuff will happen. And frankly, bad stuff is already happening. Artificial intelligence, or data science, or in general sophisticated tools built on the kinds of algorithms that we talked about in this course may be involved. But the prime mover is going to be a human, just because these algorithms aren't capable of real agency. And so we will, as a result, build societal norms, expectations, and countermeasures against the bad and improper things that people do with these algorithms. And as a computer scientist, the biggest thing that I'm worried about right now is not whether AI will kill or enslave humanity, but can we make our computer systems secure? And so I'm worried more about cybersecurity, networking attacks, and things like that. And those could well be vectors for the AI problems that we may see in the future, but the underlying problem is that our socio-technical systems are not secure at all, and people haven't been taking that seriously. And when people make predictions now about bad things that might happen because of a rogue AI, they don't take into account what's already happening right now and the bad stuff that will happen in the near term. And that bad stuff will happen whether we like it or not, but as a result, we'll build counter-defenses and we'll get serious about cybersecurity. People's predictions about rogue AIs doing bad things are often rooted in a common problem about technological predictions. People make predictions that society stays basically the same while technology changes. That's usually a bad model. Here you have a picture from the 1920s of women with flying cars, living lives of leisure, using video chat. And it doesn't really capture the societal changes that have happened since the 1920s, even though we're close to some of these technologies, although I still don't have my flying car. And people who make professional predictions about the future, science fiction writers, often get this wrong too. They picture a future with a society that looks a lot like the society that we have now. And although it's an imperfect book in other ways, one book that really gets it right in terms of society changing drastically over time is The Forever War, and this is a good example of people taking societal change into account when they're predicting the future. So, my next prediction is that there will probably be some sort of physical harm to humans that results from an AI, but because humans are jerks, that will happen relatively soon, and it won't be because of any grand advances in AI, but just because people are getting better at being jerks and will use the tools that they have available. And this will be bad, people may overreact, but as a result we'll start to build safeguards that prevent networked computers from being overtaken by either a bad human or a bad artificial intelligence. And it won't pose an existential threat to human life as we know it. Unlike, say, nuclear weapons, which have been an existential threat to humanity for a long time. And in 2018, we're seeing some of this already. It could be that voting systems have been compromised. It could be that the electoral system writ large in society in the free and fair flow of information has been compromised. These are big problems, and we're beginning to grapple with them. I don't know what the solutions to these specific problems will be, but we will find some solution. One of the reasons that I'm relatively optimistic about this is that efforts to manipulate people individually or societies writ large is that humans are involved, and humans are messy, and humans, being biological organisms, are slow. And this is exactly the kind of thing where computers have problems. When you have unpredictable interactions with things that have high latency. And this is very difficult to optimize, and it's difficult for an AI to master these sorts of tasks. But if emotions and politics are messy, one of the complicated socio-technical systems that we do have is really, really fast. Things like algorithmic trading are already deeply using data science and machine learning to make some people really, really rich. Could it be that an artificial intelligence could take advantage of that and destroy society as a result? Here I think the solution is not technological, as in the case of cybersecurity, but more from the field of economics. And because you have many actors participating in the market, and they all have an incentive to invest in artificial intelligence, and you do have some of the slowness of humans and other interactions, there is a difficult path towards any one AI wreaking total havoc on the system. And as we have incremental progress in machine learning and artificial intelligence, you will have many actors competing with each other, and we will likely reach a state of equilibrium. That's not to say that there won't be problems. There will likely be additional market failures. There will be monopolies. There will be asynchronous information. And we need to fight against that, but we already have tools to do that when people are involved in the markets, and we need to make sure that we have efficient markets even when AI gets involved, and I think this is a really interesting direction of research. How do we create fair and efficient markets even when we have artificial intelligence agents involved and not just humans? And it could be that this is actually a good thing. Humans are not as rational as economic theory would like to think they are, and perhaps having additional artificial intelligence actors in the markets will help curb some of the emotionality and irrationality of humans that can lead to suboptimal outcomes. Thus far, my predictions have been about small steps forward in time, so looking at the very near-term future. And my predictions have been about situations where we have existing socio-technical systems where you have humans using artificial intelligence as a tool. And you have all the bad motivations that humans may have, but the AI isn't really an actor, it is just a tool. What about versions of the future where the AI itself is trying to do something? It's trying to achieve some goal, and what if that goal is contrary to the good of humanity? So first, from sort of a research perspective, I think artificial general intelligence is a long way off. I don't think we even have a clear path to move in that direction. So this seems really far away in time. And when you're talking about something so far away, it's hard to make predictions. And I think we're going to fall into the same trap that we talked about at the very beginning, that we tend to overestimate impact in the short term, and we may underestimate impact in the long term, but predictions in the long term have no idea what's going to change in society. I think in the near term, as we grapple with the bad actions of humans who use AI to do bad things, we will learn to fight against jerks using AI. This will build up something akin to an immune system. And we will likely build things like specialized AIs that will take on rogue artificial general intelligence if and when it emerges. But again, it's hard to make these predictions accurate because a lot will have changed if and when this happens. So does this mean that there's nothing to worry about? I am definitely not saying that. So let's go back to what I think was the last great societal revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, most people were farmers all around the world. But there were big inventions that changed that. And the development of things like the cotton gin or the automatic reaper made it far more efficient for people to farm, and it required far fewer people to be engaged in agriculture. These inventions were revolutionary, but they didn't really change society all that quickly. And society had a period to change the way that it was structured to adapt to industrialization. And one of the things that allowed this to happen was educational innovations that prepared people for the Industrial Revolution. We had mass education that prepared people for the kinds of jobs in factories that they needed to take on as agriculture jobs started disappearing. Industrialization reorganized society, and there were conflicts about how wealth should be redistributed and how power should be allocated between capital and workers, but we figured it out for the most part. Partly because we had educational systems in place that helped us weather the storm. And now automation, artificial intelligence, is slowly taking hold, and society will change again. It isn't clear to me, however, that we have an educational system and a social structure to adapt to these changes. And this is my least optimistic prediction. We have not structured our society to cope with the possible uncertainty of a world with a lot of artificial intelligence. We don't have educational systems that are creating the workers that would be able to thrive in an economy with a lot of artificial intelligence. And our society is not structured to deal with the redistribution that I think will be necessary to cope with a world where not everyone needs to be engaged in industrial labor, or a world with far fewer service jobs. And one solution would be radical redistribution of wealth that could avoid a world with a lot of misery and inequality. I think a great possible outcome for a world with advanced artificial intelligence that is doing a lot of the work that we consider to be jobs today would be a society where almost every human is involved in really creative work. And this is important because machine learning is really bad at creativity. And machine learning, I think, in my opinion, works best when it is paired with humans and draws on the diverse skill sets of both humans and computers to do the best possible collaborative work. And so, to you as researchers, as students going out into the world, what I would suggest for you to do is to not just focus on your narrow field of a small set of algorithms, but to think about how these algorithms interact with society. So you should support the arts. You should support algorithms that encourage people's creativity, because that is the most important way that machine learning can help enhance society from a socio-technical and economic perspective. And as you're developing new algorithms, you should focus on algorithms that can take advantage of humans' unique creativity and experience, not just algorithms that automate and replace existing workers. At the same time, part of your job is also to explain why artificial intelligence is not as advanced as a lot of people think that it is. And I hope one of the tools from this course that you've developed is a way to think critically about these algorithms and to think about ways that they could fail, and maybe they shouldn't be as widely deployed as some people might think. And if they are deployed, you should make sure that these algorithms are accountable and interpretable. That if your algorithms are making big decisions out in the world, people should be able to go back and reflect why the algorithms made the decisions they did, and those algorithms should be able to explain themselves to both experts, say people who designed the algorithms in the first place, and to non-experts. For example, someone whose bank loan just got turned down. And in general, try to build a world that you would want your children and your grandchildren to live in. And I think this will be a world with artificial intelligence, so we should build the artificial intelligence algorithms that we would want our children and grandchildren to interact with.